from one mouth and some lips. We love practical action tips. Maybe Augie's brain will flip. It's time for some practical action tips.
You are listening to Personal Development Mastery, the podcast that empowers you with a simple and consistent actions to take that will help you create a life of purpose and fulfillment. I'm your host, Agi Keramidas, and this is episode 398. If you want to discover how you can enhance your health and vitality by unlocking the ancient wisdom of Meridians, then this episode is for you. By listening today, you will understand how tapping into your body's meridian system can empower you to achieve holistic well-being. And you will also discover many small practical action tips. And I mean many. Before we dive in, if you enjoy listening and appreciate what we're doing here, the simple, quick favor I'm asking of you is to click the subscribe button. Now let's get started. Today I am delighted to speak with Sarah Ariella. Sarah, you have a remarkable journey from debilitating illness to empowered healing. You have navigated 15 years of physical limitations, including periods of immobility and silence, and undergone extensive treatments along the way. You are a healer and educator with extensive knowledge of the meridians, our energy pathways, and you are passionate about sharing your insights about meridians and how they can be used as powerful tools not only for healing, but also for personal development. Sarah, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the show, Augie. You know your tagline, don't fit in, stand out. Did I get that right? Or stand out, don't fit in?
Stand out, don't fit in, yes.
For me, that was impossible for so many years because I physically could not stand up. I could not stand up. I could not stand out. We have so many expressions like that in English. Stand up for your rights. Stand out from the crowd. Don't take things lying down. And I remember lying down in so many doctors' office, feeling physically powerless and disempowered, partly just because of that physical position of being supine and not being able to stand up for myself literally. And like you said, I did try everything, over 50 medications to help me stand up. The issue was my blood pressure kept going down, down, down. I remember once I was in the hospital, they strapped me into a bed. They stood me up. No, my worst fear. And my blood pressure went down to 50/30, which is a far cry from 120/80. So I did need medical interventions. And I needed mindset tools. So I'm going to give you, because I know you like practical tips, action tips.
Sure, and we will certainly go there, Sarah. I don't want to jump straight into that yet.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I could give you at least 12 tips, one for each meridian.
Okay, then go right ahead with the first one and I will carry on if that's the case.
Okay.
For sure.
The reason that I got into meridians is I read this book called Meridians, Maps of the Soul by Mike Mandel. And that was the book that changed my trajectory and made me think about meridians as our inner energy besties, our best friends who can guide us along this journey of life. Or you can just think of them as personality archetypes for transforming into the person that you want to become. So there are 12 meridians, and I think of them as having 12 distinct personality types. So depending on what aspect of you that you want to work on, I remember that quote from Shunryu Suzuki who says, "You are perfect the way you are, and you could use a little improvement." So depending on what aspect of you want to improve, maybe you are already perfect, Augie. But for me, what I want to improve is I choose one of the 12 meridians, my besties, and I dig in deep. I do affirmations for that meridian. I listen to music that I have crafted myself for that meridian, and I meditate with it. I really dive into the life and soul of that one meridian. So let's get into the 12. I want to talk about lung meridian. This is the meridian that makes us feel so powerful.
I will stop you for a moment now, Sarah, and we'll have to go back and give a little bit of introduction, because someone listening might not be certain, first of all, what exactly we are talking about, the meridian.
I know,
so I would like
so
to give...
many people are so much more familiar with chakras, energy centers. Do you think that's true? Are you familiar with chakras?
Yes, I am. I think they are, both of them are well known, but I wanted, for the sake of giving a definition, in case someone listening is not familiar with it, if you can tell me what are they? What do you mean by meridians?
For many years, I knew them only as energy pathways that could be used for acupressure or acupuncture.
Right.
And I think they are powerful tools to use if you do have an acupuncturist, or you like to do acupressure on yourself by massaging certain parts of the body. Those are powerful tools. When I was recovering from spine surgery, I remember I was lying in bed, unable to move much except maybe one pinky toe once every other week. And to me, getting to an acupuncturist, or even massaging the palm of my hand with the other hand, it sounded so effortful. It just sounded like too much work. So I wanted a way to connect with these energy pathways that I could do while resting in bed without moving a muscle. And the way to do that is by seeing the meridians as more than just these acupressure or acupuncture paths, but actually these 12 personality types that we can quantum leap into, if you're into quantum leaping.
Yes, I am. Before we go there, I will let you go there straight after and tell me about the 12, and I'll let you expand on the ones that you want. There is one other thing I wanted to address just before we go there. And let's say someone listening now is a bit skeptical about this, thinking, is there proof for this? Is there science behind this? So what would you say to her?
This makes me feel conflicted because there are NIH journal articles. I've searched on PubMed for scientific evidence of the meridians, but I did not do that for myself. I did that for friends and family who were curious to learn more, because I never needed scientific evidence to tell me if something was helpful for me. Because what if all of our beliefs are false and none of them are true, and all of our opinions are baseless? Then we should just select and handpick the ones that are working for us and are helpful. If believing in something like meridians helps you get through the day, then why not? If it's not helpful for you, disregard it, discard it, stop this podcast, move on.
Thank you. This answer was wonderful, and I'm also, like, you can relate, because I do not personally need the evidence if I can feel it inside me that it is true. So, but I appreciate that. So let's move on. I'm not going to stay there anymore. So you were saying about the 12 meridians and connecting them to personality types.
Yes. Okay. Because you like tips so much, Last night, I was thinking about prepping for this podcast, and I thought, wait, what if there was a little jingle for Augie about his action tips that he loves so much? So I came up with this. From one mouth, from some lips, we'll come up with some action tips. Maybe Augie's brain will flip. It's practical action tips.
Can you say that once more? I love it.
Yes. Let's see. From one mouth and some lips, we love practical action tips. Maybe Augie's brain will flip. It's time for some practical action tips.
Thank you. That's brilliant. I love it. Let's go back then to the meridians.
Lung meridian. So strong, so powerful. I think of him as the personality type who's the motivational coach who will get you to the gym. And he's that part of you who will keep you breathing expansively, taking up physical space in the room, has a strong voice, inhales and exhales with fortitude, can get you through that last bit of the marathon. For me, a marathon is just rolling over in bed and getting to the sink to brush my teeth, but whatever the marathon is for you. So for lung meridian, I'm going to say massage your thumbs, even though I just said that acupressure is not always the answer that we have to go to, but I do really like this for lung meridian. And it's easy to remember. Lung, thumbs, lung. Those two words kind of sound the same. So we massage our thumbs whenever we want strength and stamina. Action tip number 2 of 12. We're going to the large intestine meridian. Now, we know the large intestine organ. We know what that does. But put that aside for a moment and think about the wealthiest person you know who builds up prosperity, builds up abundance, builds security and stability, and has no difficulty completing tasks. That's the part of the personality that is large intestine meridian. And for large intestine, what I like to do is remind myself of all the things I have completed in a day. We're so focused on the to-do list of the things that we have yet to do, but what did we actually finish completely? Maybe it's that basket of laundry that did get folded, or maybe it is that last tooth that did get brushed somehow. So making a little micro note in your brain every time you go through your day and you do finish a task, it gives you that dopamine hit of, oh, I can do this. I do finish things. Mm-hmm. We're moving on to stomach meridian. I love thinking about this as digesting life easily. Not just food, but digesting life and emotions, especially when it comes to goal setting. So feeling ambitious, feeling like you can see the goal, and maybe you like the idea of detachment from a goal, because I know that is one way of goal setting. But stomach meridian is that first step of just identifying the goal. Being able to digest all of our emotions along the way so we can reach the goal, and having that nourishment that comes from the digestion process. We're moving on to spleen meridian. Oh no, I didn't give you the action tip. I got so excited talking about stomach meridian. So for stomach meridian, I do like the acupressure point of the cheekbones. Oh no, she's talking about acupressure again. Maybe she does love acupressure. Okay, we're tapping the cheekbones with force with your hands. And I'm not a doctor, so, consult with your healthcare practitioner before, but you can press vigorously or you can tap vigorously. Yes, so that connects you to stomach meridian. Spleen meridian is the next one. She's the beauty and wellness queen. Do you have a mantra or affirmation you like to feel lovable and to feel full of self-love?
Mm-hmm.
Augie, do you have one?
Yes, I do.
Do you want to share it with us?
I am loved and I am enough.
Oh, I love that. I am lovable because I am lovable. Mm-hmm. That one's from Marissa Peer. And I like the 2-step process for affirmations. I am this because I am this. And it's the same phrase uttered over and over again. Or I also like the what if setup for affirmations. What if I am lovable? Then I am lovable. And you just trick your brain into asking the question and answering the question with that same word. What if I am successful? Then I'm successful. What if I am nourished? Then I am nourished. Like that. So for spleen meridian, I do a lot of affirmations for self-love. We are moving on to heart meridian. Okay, listen to your heart. We all know it. We've all heard the advice. But what if it's literal? So you can move all of your head energy down into your chest space. Look out at the world through your rib cage, listening to the pulse of your heart. And I find this so effective when I'm exercising. I actually learned this from a physical therapist, Greg Chaplin, DPT. We tend to be in our heads, literally. So if you're overthinking, you move all of that attention and awareness down into your rib cage. You look out at the world from the back of your rib cage is even more powerful. And from that vantage point, you do get a better perspective. Okay, we're moving on to small intestine meridian. This is the meridian that can separate thoughts from emotions. So the small intestine organ separates things that are beneficial for our body. When we eat food, it separates the good bacteria from the bad bacteria, the good nutrients from the unhelpful nutrients. And I don't love the thinking in duality, but sometimes we do need to think, what is helpful for me and what is unhelpful for me? So small intestine meridian, the tip for that one is, let's say you have a negative thought cycling in your mind. Without the negative emotion attached to that thought, there's very little impact or zing that it has in your life. So if you write down that negative thought, identify the emotion that is currently attached to it, but then practice saying it out loud with wildly varying emotions. I'll give you an example. Let's see. I don't let negative thoughts in anymore, so this will be hard to find an example, but let's think we were just talking about self-love. So if you keep thinking, I'm not worthy of love, but then you say it in different ways. I'm not worthy of love. 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 And you just keep trying on different personas, characters, and emotions. Then you've separated out the words from their emotional impact. And that can be so powerful. Are you ready for the next meridian?
If you enjoy this episode, can you think of one person that would find it useful and share it with them? I'd really appreciate it. It helps the show grow and you will also be adding value to people you care about. Thank you. And now let's get back to the episode.
Are you ready for the next meridian?
Yes, I'm enjoying your journey through, you taking us on the journey through the 12.
Okay, we're up to the bladder meridian. I love the bladder meridian. Okay, this one's about balancing rest and activity. And that's so tough. So I think I was telling you the other day, bladder meridian likes when we sleep in the morning and give ourselves an hour extra of rest. But I can take this too far personally. I used to rest too much. I mean, I would meditate for 5 hours a day and then take a nap. And I was just constantly in rest mode. So it is about knowing the balance of rest versus activity.
Okay.
So I think if you're someone who works a lot, is very zealous and intense, try out sleeping in an hour in the morning and see if there's anything about your bladder meridian that reacts well to that. You might find you have less urge to void your bladder. I have a lot of urinary incontinence, so it's easy for me to see how my bladder meridian is doing quantitatively. This is not a topic maybe all of your guests talk about, but here we are. Okay, so the tip is just sleep more if you can. Okay, we're on to kidney meridian. Kidney meridians are so brave and bouncy and energetic. They're game for anything. And I do like an acupressure point for this one. The middle of the palm, you take one hand, you place it right in the middle of the other palm, and you press really hard. I like it because you can do it in public quite easily, under a table, behind your back, even out in front of you. I don't think people would really look askance at this. I mean, not that we really care what other people think of us, maybe, but sometimes we do. All right, we're almost done with the 12 meridians. The next one is pericardium meridian. Pericardium meaning around the heart. I think of this as like a jello squishy material around the heart, not literally, but figuratively, something that protects our heart space. And it's all about giving and receiving in balance. I find this very overwhelming to consider. Am I giving too much? Am I taking too much? How do I figure it out? But there's an easy tip to remember that we do give and receive all day long just by inhaling and exhaling. So if you are into breath work, you can do the 2-second inhale, 2-second exhale, or 3-second inhale, 3-second exhale. I don't like going longer than that. That's something else I learned from Greg Chaplin, DPT, who's a breathwork expert. I've taken his courses on breathwork, and he likes to say it's not always about deep breathing, but what if it's about balanced breathing? And what if measuring your inhales and exhales and making sure they're balanced, maybe that's very helpful. Mm-hmm. Do you do a lot of breath work, Augie?
I do a lot of breath work, and I do some, different variations. The main one I use is a Wim Hof breathing.
Okay, so it's more of an inhale than an exhale, am I correct?
Yes, and it is deep, indeed, very deep from the diaphragm as a technique.
I like that idea of biasing the inhale over the exhale, because so many schools of thought right now are teaching to prolong the exhale. But what if
I've done that as well?
But what if that's not what you need to get through your day in an alert, energized, sympathetic drive way? Maybe the sympathetic system is not the devil, and we can utilize it for what we need it to do.
Exactly, yes. When we need to use it and utilize it, then it would be great, and not when we should be in the parasympathetic mode and resting or mode.
I know. I tried a vagus nerve stimulator that stimulated my parasympathetic system, and I got much worse with my illness, which at the time involved almost passing out regularly. I had the low blood pressure. I was falling down. And I think for me, I needed more sympathetic system activation, even though many people out there are saying parasympathetic. But I'm not a doctor, so everyone should consult their own practitioner.
Of course. And
okay.
There are two, so that implies some kind of a balance between them. It's not one or the other.
Wait,
it is one and the other.
I love that. And that is pericardium meridian balance. Augie's got it already. Okay, we're almost through. Let's see what's next. Oh, we have 2 left. Gallbladder meridian. Now, I could not tell you what the gallbladder organ does, but I know about the gallbladder meridian, and it's all about being decisive, resolute and firm with our decisiveness. And that is one of the success traits that Napoleon Hill talks about so much. Can you make a decision in less than 30 seconds, in less than 60 seconds? Mike Mandel in his Meridian book says, can you make a decision in less than 7 breaths? So having a time limit and practicing making decisions quickly and then sticking to that decision, I think can be so helpful. Do you have a specific time limit that you think would work for you when you're practicing making decision making?
It's a good question, and I was pondering on what you said from Napoleon Hill, and that is a trait of successful people indeed, that they take decisions fast and they stick with them. They change them, if at all, they change them very slowly, whereas the opposite happens with the people who are not successful. They take long to make decisions, and then they can change them often and fast. So they are two completely opposite ones.
I cannot decide. Oh no, I can't decide a good time limit to practice this, but I think I should just decide to either practice the 30 seconds or the 60 seconds or the 7 breaths and practice making decisions within that set time frame. That might really help me out. But first I have to decide on the time limit. Oh no, the first decision. Decisions. We have 1 meridian left, Aggie. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is liver meridian. And this one is all about having a vast vision so you can see the context of your problem and not just the contents of your problem. And the action tip is to literally practice peripheral vision. You do this by just opening your gaze to the sides and seeing how far you can see. And it's amazing that you can still see things that are directly in front of you, but you're taking in the bigger picture, literally. Mm-hmm. I like that tip from Bob Proctor, who says, if you have a problem, write it down on a piece of paper. Make sure the problem is outside you, not inside you, by writing it down, putting it on a table, walking around the table, looking at that piece of paper from a different perspective, and then the ideas start going. So I think practicing peripheral vision is, if you only take one tip from all of the 12 meridians, that's the one I would practice.
That's fantastic. Thank you for this very extensive list of action tips. That was brilliant. It was more than I was expecting from this conversation. I will ask you a bit more about this final thing you said about the peripheral vision. When you say practice peripheral vision, does it matter whether the center of our vision is something that is complex? Can it be the sky or some blank wall, or it does not matter what it is in the center and just take in everything of the visual field?
I did start practicing by looking at a central object, opening my gaze, and then seeing, can I still see the central object regardless of what it is, while taking in the bigger picture? But I only did that for maybe a few months, and then I transitioned to just taking in the bigger picture, which I found much more impactful.
And do you do that as a practice? I mean, do you dedicate specific time to do that, or does it happen when you go about your day, you also absorb the peripheral vision?
I used to do it for 10 to 20 minutes as a meditation practice instead of doing a different type of meditation for the day. However, now I do it every moment I can when I'm going through my day to see, am I looking at the bigger picture when I'm driving, when I'm exercising, when I'm communicating?
Thank you. That's from the ones that you mentioned, this one has really caught my attention much more than it really jumped out at me, because I have practiced it a little, certainly nothing like what you said, the 20 minutes a day for a long time, but I have practiced it a little without too much success. I've had some ability to take in, the whole thing at once. That's the best way I can describe it, but not consistently. So I will give it a go for sure. Thank you very, very much.
Yay.
There is one last quick question I wanted to ask, because we mentioned it earlier and I've been meaning to ask you. You mentioned at the very beginning of the conversation the chakras. So I wanted to ask, is there any connection between the chakras and the meridians, or are they two completely different things that have no reflection on each another?
I'm not a chakra expert, so I don't know if I can answer the question. My understanding is that it's two different civilizations' takes on energy systems, chakras from India and meridians from China. I do like working with both systems, and I'll tell you why. Meridians have these 12 distinct personalities types, so they can feel relatable, memorable. The chakras, because you don't have to memorize starting points and end points throughout the body, it's just 7 discrete parts of the body. I think it's easier to do meditations where you just have one hand on your sacral chakra or one hand on your solar plexus chakra, and you don't have to remember 500 points for the meridians. There are probably more than 500 points for the meridians that are powerful. So for putting one hand on your chest and one hand on your low belly to activate 2 chakras, that's such a nice, easy practice. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I use chakras.
Thank you for the answer. There was not a specific answer I was looking for, but I really got what you were saying. Sarah, before we start wrapping this up, there is one... it's not really the topic that we have been discussing, but I wanted to ask you, as someone who has navigated these significant health challenges, what advice would you offer to others that face similar obstacles on their healing journey? If there was one thing that you could say. I'm sure there are a lot.
I would say you have to be a little delusional. And that might mean, yes, using your doctors, using your physical therapists, using your medications, and being delusional enough to think, oh, I'm the element in all of this. The treatments come and go, but the only constant is me. And if I'm the most important factor, and I can master my mind, body, and energy, and now I know what energy is because I've heard about these 12 meridians. Energy is now something that I understand. We know about the mind and the body, but the energy is sometimes kind of illusory or elusive. So if I focus on me, I let the doctors do their thing, and I'm delusional enough that I can think I can make a difference for me, then we have an impetus for change.
Thank you. Sarah, where would you direct the listener who has enjoyed this conversation and wants to find out more?
Well, because your podcast is called Personal Development Mastery, I was so tickled because I have a course called Meridian Mastery. And you can find that on my website at www.meridianhealer.com.
Mm-hmm. Before we sign off today, I have 2 quick questions that I always ask my guests. And the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
Personal, that word is so fraught for me because who am I? Maybe I am just a collection of these 12 energy bundles who are all doing their own thing. And maybe I am nothingness. But if I'm nothingness, then I'm everythingness. Oh no, now we're really getting into it. Okay, so if I take personal out of the equation and I just focus on development, oh, I can do that if I'm just 2% better every day. I'm sure you've heard that one before. That sounds so manageable and reasonable, and the little steps will add up. Then we come to the word mastery. Mastering something implies that I do have the power. So that's good for the ego. And we like the ego. I'm not trying to kill my ego. I'm trying to utilize my ego.
I think we need it in our human existence. It's useful.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you said that. Poor ego gets a bad rap. So if we come back to personal development, what does it mean? If it means navigating all these energy channels that are running amok and just getting a little bit better each day, then that's doable, and I think I can do it. And this podcast has just given me self-confidence, so thank you.
Brilliant. And one hypothetical question, if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give her?
Well, that's tough because at 18 years old, I was studying to be a professional ballet dancer. And I was so used to transformation, personal transformation, because I could transform into a princess or a frog. I was on stage in costumes. And I did not know that I'd be putting on the costume of a hospital gown over and over again for the next 15 years. Oh no. So you're really taking me back right to it, Augie. Okay, let's think. What would I tell her? I would tell her that the treatment, the medical interventions, they do matter, but they are just one plane. It's just the physical plane. And you can support yourself with the mental plane and the energy plane. So if you take on 2/3 of the work and let your friends and family and medical community help you with just the physical, then those 2/3 that you are working on for yourself, Sarah, I'm talking to myself now, just focus on the mind, focus on the energy, and then the physical stuff will get easier.
Thank you. Sarah, I want to thank you very much for this fascinating conversation and for the abundance of practical tips you shared with us. I like this word. I want to wish you all the very best, both personally and professionally. Any last parting words?
No, thank you so much for having me on your show. My Meridians loved it.
And before I end today's episode, if you enjoy this podcast, can you think of one person that would find it useful and share it with them? I'd really appreciate it. It helps the show grow and you also add value to people you care about. Thank you. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,